Yeah, this is my topic today. It is about what is the nature of diplomacy. What is the nature of diplomacy? We will scrutiny, we will get information from the history perspective to understand what is diplomacy in international arena. Absolutely, as part of political action or international relation affair, diplomacy has their old history from the ancient until today. If you enjoy the old story of Ramayana or Mahabharata, actually before the war, the final war, you see the part of the story. There is a title of Krishna Duta, Krishna Duta. Really, Duta is not a Malay word, but Duta originally from India. Krishna Duta means a diplomat named Krishna to negotiate, to cooling down the situation as a final envoy to make dialogue with conflictual and conflicting countries. But because of the Krishna Duta story, he faced difficulties in dialogue and provide a deadlock diplomacy. So the war happened. Okay, when I illustrate about this kind of Mahabharata story, it's happened today in modern history. If dialogue among the countries stop, it means the war begins. It means the war begins. How to negotiate something, how to decide to war or to create peace among the country, how to make a political bargaining, how to solve the problems such as border problem, such as sources problem, such as pride or sovereignty problem. Several countries that involved in conflictual situation, they try to create solution by dialogue or diplomacy. So diplomacy near or closer with dialogue situation. And the opposite of the dialogue or diplomacy means war. Okay. But when we study diplomacy today, we always refer to Western history. Always refer to Western history, not the Eastern, not the Eastern. What is the evidence if we learn about Western diplomacy? Yeah. The evidence itself is the name of the diplomacy. The name of the subject is not duta, but diplomacy. Maybe if refer to Eastern history, we will refer to Duta studies, not diplomacy. Not diplomacy. Diplomacy originally from Greek culture. It's mean diplon. Diplon mean to vault, like your pocket, And inside the pocket are identity and the decree from the king that indicate someone or a person as a formal envoy from the king. Because in the ancient history, all of the diplomat or ambassador always come from the first ring or the closer person from the king. Maybe the crown, maybe the prince, maybe trusted general, maybe prime minister. Not open recruitment like today. Ambassador today maybe come from the original person that recruited in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they have increased career in diplomatic affairs. But in the ancient era, it is impossible to be diplomat from the common people, because diplomat or ambassador at the time and a little number of the team, they will hold very secret information, and maybe only the ambassador and the king will know this. Not all of the ministers in the kingship system. Maybe only the ambassador, maybe as a general, only the general and the king and the prime minister will discuss the information, the secret information from the envoy, the formal envoy to other country, and not like today. After negotiation, after dialogue among the ambassador, there is press conference, for example. No press conference. So information from the envoy, from the duta, from the ambassador at that time is very, very secret information. So it is important for us to get diploma or kind of stamp that mention your name as a formal envoy from the king. So it is related to the document that show a special status of a person. Yeah, maybe today it is like a passport, diplomatic passport, that you can entry border administration easier than the common people. So if you're an international airport, you will see in the immigration common passport, worker passport, foreigner passport, and number 4, diplomatic passport. So diploma like a pocket as passport, but more than passport, because inside there is your identity as a formal envoy from the king. That is the diploma. Identity. Identity. Okay. In the modern era, yeah, that is the history of the name. In modern era, in the study of diplomacy, really diplomat refer to Edward Burke in 1796. Refer to French word, diplomacy and diplomat, like this. And factually, the diplomatic practices were not only in Greece and Rome, but also in China, Persia, India, yeah, and other part of the world since 4 or 5 centuries before Christ. So, factually, as history, diplomacy really far from the European history. But now we discuss diplomacy refer to European history. Why? As I mentioned before, that who is the person can draw history or write history? The person are the last winner of the war. Why European countries today can more influential in the world more than other part of the world? Because European country and United States is an ally as a winner of the Second World War. Okay, so it is fair or not, sir? Yeah. When we talk about fairness or not fairness, I see it is fair in the perspective of today's international relation. Because international relation today under European and American order, yeah, to tell the truth that America and European countries still influential until today. You can see in United Nations, for example, in humanitarian action or environmental action, you see the domination of those countries. So, to know the history of diplomacy from Western perspective, it is important because it's related to world order today, related to international law that govern the diplomacy today. So we should know what is the diplomacy under Western perspective. But as a scholar in international relations, I think it is important for us to know the history of diplomacy from other part of the world. Yeah, maybe in brief, I will bring you to see what happened in other part of the world. If we go to Indian ancient history, we will meet a very famous person. His name was Kautilya. Yeah, in the young age, he was known as Chanakya. Chanakya, 4 until the 3 century before Christ. He was Indian statesman and philosopher, chief advisor and prime minister of the Indian Emperor Chandragupta, the first ruler of Mauryan Empire. Kautilya belonged to be Brahmin, really Brahmin caste, so the highest level. He was originally from northern India and a professor of political science at the time in the perspective of the ancient knowledge, and economics in this University of Taxila at that time. Can you imagine it? So yeah, if you go to India, you go to Egypt, you go to Iraq, you go to Marrakesh, Morocco, you will meet the very old university. When Western history is still in darkness, really the sun rise in the eastern part of the world. What I mean of the sun is knowledge, enlightenment, knowledge, priorly shining in the eastern part of the world. But after medieval century, you see that in the Western history there is Aufklärung, enlightenment, Renaissance. Unfortunately, what they said as Aufklärung and Renaissance produce what we call it as colonialism, imperialism. But long, 1,000 years before European history, in the eastern part of the world, there are many universities that produce science, knowledge, astronomy, politics, and also literature. Like in University of Taxila, the Kautilya arranged the Artha Sastra. Sastra, also it is not Malay word, not Indonesian word. It's come from India. Artha, Sastra. Yeah, there are 2 words here, Artha and Sastra, and until today still we use the Artha word and Sastra word in literature. Artha Sastra, one of the part of this book is the art of diplomacy. It's very, very influential. Okay. Yeah, I just introduced you in this introduction that why I show you about Kautilya history, because I just want to show that not only Western history practice diplomacy. So what is the meaning of diplomacy? It is we enter to the diplomatic as a science, diplomatic as a knowledge. If you open Oxford Dictionary, you will meet that the diplomacy is the management of international relation by negotiation, not by war, by negotiation, dialogue. In this kind of negotiation, we need the art of negotiation, the art of diplomacy. So there are two parts of diplomacy. Diplomacy as a knowledge and diplomacy as the art of diplomacy. Diplomacy as a knowledge means that we can verify, we can refer to the theory of diplomacy, we can refer to theory of law, international law, we can refer to verified action that generally happen in diplomacy. But the art of diplomacy beyond the verified knowledge, but it emerged from the characteristic of diplomacy from a certain diplomat. It is like, it is like style. It is very individual, but we can learn. Oh yeah, Henry Kissinger, very professional diplomat, how to play among the global power at the time, backed up by Morgenthau. You know Morgenthau, politics among nations, you know. Yeah. And also in Indonesian history, we can see the Agus Salim, how Haji Agus Salim can play the dominant role in the beginning of Indonesian history, play diplomatic affair, go to Saudi Arabia, go to the Al-Quds and several countries in the Middle East, because his uncle is the Imam of Masjidil Haram, and there are several imam from Padang Panjang and from Jawi as the imam in Masjidil Haram. They try to lobby the imam and try to call the king around the Middle East arena. That is why the Indonesian new government, new nation state in 1945 easily get recognition from a Middle East country. So the role of Agus Salim is very, very prominent. And in our history today, maybe it is not easy to get article like what I say. But if you open the history in detail, you open the Agus Salim biography, you will see how important this old person in the beginning of Indonesian diplomacy to recognize our independence. You can see also how Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru play with Sukarno to create natural bloc, non-aligned bloc, to make balance between Western and Eastern bloc. So that is part of knowledge, science, verified knowledge, and also there is the art of diplomacy. Okay, secondly, what is the diplomacy? Panikkar stated that diplomacy is the art of forwarding one's interest in relation to other state. Once mean one country. Forwarding one country's interest relate to other country, other states. Panikkar tried to see the art of diplomacy, the art of diplomacy. So many article in his book stated about the art of diplomacy, a style of diplomacy, how to create diplomacy effective. It is more in art. And Rasset and Starr stated that diplomacy as mean by which a state directly influence another. How to influence another. not by war, but by dialogue, by dialogue. So we can, yeah, kind of make a summary of, there is guideline for us to understand what is diplomacy. So diplomacy is like a management of international relation by negotiation to influence other country peacefully, not by war. So your country interests will meet in your partner in another country. So diplomacy is really how we manage our relation, our business. Business is very natural, not only in trading, yeah? Business, our business, to other country peacefully and negotiate all of your interests, your country interests with your partner effectively to avoid conflict, to moderate conflict, and absolutely to avoid war. Because as I mentioned before, that if you fail in your diplomacy, if you're a diplomat, it's mean you start wars. Yeah, wars may be not by gun, but also by statement, psychological war. Yeah, sometimes in media, it is not a good relation and tend to a conflictual relation. Okay, it is more formal understanding about diplomacy by Barston. The means by which state through their formal and other representative as well as other actor articulate, coordinate, and secure particular or wider interests using correspondent, private talk, exchange of view, lobbying, visit, threat, and other related activities, but not war. But not war. So diplomacy has many phases, many actualities in activities. We can create diplomacy not from the top rank of the leader. Today's diplomacy played by people. So if you open the web, you will meet public diplomacy. Public diplomacy. There are many artists play a diplomatic role. Culturally, we can make a closer relation, although in distance. For example, that diplomacy today emerges more actor than traditional actor. What mentioned by Barston about the actor, and we see the picture here, the top rank of the government, it is traditional. Until today, there is still this kind of activities, but now there are many actors in diplomacy, many actors in diplomacy. Public diplomacy opens new actors, especially like media, like cultural group, like artists. Maybe in every room in your boarding house, or maybe in your own house, there is a good from a product from Korea. Maybe your cosmetic, maybe your handphone. And I see that you are very familiar with Korean film star. And what happened? You have your own imagination on Korean government and society. Although never talk directly, the film star or maybe drakor, Korean drama, never talk about this is my country, this is my society, but the audience influenced by the story. And indirectly, they form an image in every person in Indonesia, in other words, that, oh, Korea is very good country, peacefully, prosperous, and very handsome, very beautiful. That is public diplomacy. How to influence other countries' public opinion by indirect diplomacy. So we can use the media and film and so on and so on. Yeah, we will discuss this next. What is public diplomacy? Okay, but in this topic, I just want to say that traditional actor of diplomacy and today's diplomacy very different. If we see in the ancient, in the first minutes I said, diplomacy is very secret, very close person to the king, maybe family, maybe the son, the prince, the crown. In the modern era, change to the formal rank, top rank of the society, like in the picture. Ambassador, foreign affair, minister of foreign affair, and other diplomatic apparatus formally. But now, in modern era, diplomacy emerged many actors. Yeah, people as a diplomat, it's maybe today. Yeah. If your country trusts and give you a mission to talk to the other country, you bring your country's message to the other country, directly or indirectly. And more smooth and cultural, it is like indirect influence to the other country's public opinion. Okay, there is also a statement from Sir Harold Nichols in 1989 that diplomacy in the essence is the instrument employed to put into effect substance, aim, and attitude of states' relation between one group aligned to themselves. So, yeah, it is near to prior definition that diplomacy as the instrument. So inside the diplomacy, there is message, there is interest, there is message, there is interest. So diplomacy bring the message, bring the interest, your national interest to be discussed, to be negotiated to the other country. How to struggle your national interest peacefully, it is by diplomacy and negotiation. So what is negotiation and diplomacy, sir? One of the instruments of diplomacy is negotiation. One of the instruments of diplomacy is negotiation. Yeah, it is like what's imaginative understanding that the art of jumping into the troubled water without making a splash. so if you can jump to the troubled water without flash, it's been you are like a successful diplomat. You can solve the problem, but not make new problem. So how to make smooth solution, how to make what negotiable solution among the parties, and to solve the difficulties and the problem among the country. Inside the diplomacy, as I mentioned, that there is a message, there is the interest. So diplomacy, inside the diplomacy, there is ideology, so style of diplomacy, and the message of diplomacy, and interest of diplomacy, there is ideology. China has their own message, own style of diplomacy influenced by ideology. So if we talk about the diplomacy of such a country, really we should know the ideology of the country. And politics, absolutely, in international politics. Inside the diplomacy, there is message on politics, message on interest, national interest in political arena. Economy, absolutely, because today's diplomacy, majority try to get solution on their own country difficulties on economy. For example, investment or capital, foreign direct investment, and also related to the COVID, for example, there are many difficulties. And Indonesia today relatively is very good to manage this issue of the COVID. So optimistically, I see that Indonesia will fast recovery after this COVID pandemic. Economy message, economy interest. Also social and cultural, because the peaceful situation among the country is not only by good in political relation, economy, and ideology. That is okay, yes, but it is closer, it is more stronger relation if you have a cultural approach in a diplomatic relation. For example, if you go to a Thai restaurant, for example, if you go to Yogyakarta, there are several Thai restaurants. And if you go to Hong Kong, you will meet Thai restaurant. You go to Europe, in Berlin, you will meet a Thai restaurant. Sometimes also in international airport in many countries in the world, you will meet Thai restaurant. What's the meaning of this? Yeah, under restaurant, Thai will deliver you not only food, not only Thai food, but also Thai culture. Thai culture. So if you eat food in Thai restaurant, you will meet a Thai culture, the situation, how to serve you, about the color, about the picture, about the many many additional artificial color, for example, in the wall of the restaurant, all of express the Thai culture or Thai color. So culture is very important because understanding culture means you understand the people. Understand the people is the key to make a close and strong relation, in a peaceful relation. Indonesia and Malaysia, for example, in the border arena, really before 2010, there are many outstanding border conflict, more than 18 between Indonesia and Malaysia. Politically conflict. Because there is no clear border. Military, sometimes conflict. But because of cultural diplomacy among the country, because of the public diplomacy among the people in the border area, so the conflict is not emerged to be open conflict, not increase the level of conflict to be open military conflict. No, but just there is a problem, many problems. Sometimes also there are several young person from Indonesia recruited to be a border guard by Malaysia. So they are Indonesian people with Indonesian identity, but under the uniform of Malaysian border guard. It's still very complicated, but because of the cultural relation among the people, among the society, so this conflict will be minimized. And now, Alhamdulillah, all of the outstanding border conflict between Indonesia and Malaysia have good solution. All of the border conflict finished today. And military and security, what was the meaning of this? You say that diplomacy without war, but what about the military and security diplomacy? In this term of military and security, it's mean that inside the diplomacy, we will talk about the security and military negotiation. For example, about what is our about guard cost. So, for example, between Indonesia and Philippines, we dialogue on the security along the border. We talk about security, illegal human trafficking, terrorism, non-traditional security, military security. Today, there is traditional security, non-traditional security problem. And in ASEAN, because there is no military problem, now we face many problem in non-traditional security, like trafficking, drug, and so on. So inside the diplomacy, we discuss about the military, but not to arrange war, but we try how to maintain our peaceful relation. Okay, maybe any person ask about our topic? It is more than 40 minutes. I talk to you.
Sir, I would like to.
Oh, please.
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask about military diplomacy. So, if some countries, like, for example, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization,
Yes, yes, yes.
they made the military alliance, and is that also a part of diplomacy to how to say? Is it a part of soft power or hard power, sir? Like,
Yeah,
under
I
which
can.
part of diplomacy it will be
Yes,
categorized? Yes, sir.
yes. Yeah. If the diplomacy to maintain peace situation, it's mean diplomacy. But if they join together to arrange war, it's mean not diplomacy, because the decision take before dialogue. NATO, for example, as military alliance, yeah, absolutely, they discuss about military security affair. But there are two kind of dialogue. You decide to war, or you want to maintain your peaceful situation. For example, if NATO will make operation in Ukraine or make operation in Afghanistan today, and they decide to make operation, military operation, it is not diplomacy, because you arrange war. You arrange war. It's been what you dialogue in the meeting, just technically how to create war. It's not dialogue. The characteristic of diplomacy is dialogue. So the problem can be solved peacefully, not by war. So NATO, and also in ASEAN, for example, in ASEAN there is no military alliance like this. So all of mechanism in ASEAN, we call it as ASEAN ways. ASEAN ways means that although it is very sensitive and very difficult problem among the country, ASEAN ways always try to avoid war. So we can maintain our good relation among the ASEAN, but there is a weakness. What is the weakness? If there is human right violation inside the ASEAN country, we cannot enter the country to solve the problem. Although on behalf of the ASEAN as a region. So ASEAN diplomacy will stop if there is a national sovereignty border. So if you see there is a problem on Myanmar, Rohingya, yeah, maybe you heard about this, yeah, Rohingya people. Why ASEAN cannot enter to solve the problem? Because there is the principle in ASEAN that there is no intervention. So what we know as R2P reaction, it is not effective in ASEAN. So once again, that diplomacy characteristic is avoid a war. All of the material we discuss is not to war, but if you create a dialogue or discussion how to create war, it's not diplomacy, but it is kind of war plan. So yeah, okay, maybe the other person. Okay, student, I think it is enough from my meeting today, and I hope we can meet next week. And if there is task, please fulfill the task directly. So try please try to open your ResearchGate. If there is trouble, you can contact the tutor. And please open more and more article in diplomacy, so you can make discussion with us in this forum openly, freely. Yeah, you can read your article and you try to discuss with your lecturer. It is no problem. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, and we will close this meeting with Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good day.
Okay, thank you very much. You.